talkers. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Dunn County Health and Human Services Board. Let the record show that Supervisors Bashan, Breslin, Hagan, Steen, Chair Morehouse, and citizen members, Dr. Hall, Ms. Rudy, and Mr. Lamb are all present. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our October 24th meeting.
I so move.
Supervisor Steen moves,
I'll
Dr. Hall seconds. She beat you.
Yeah.
She beat you. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from October 24th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, moving to public comment. We have a number of people here for public comment. We have I guess we have one comment online. I would like each of you, I think you probably know that, to speak for about 3 minutes. We will be timing. I've set aside no more than 30 minutes for this discussion. And I am going to establish a few ground rules in addition to the 3 minutes. The members of this board will not be asking questions or engaging with you. I don't know if you know that for reasons of procedure, that constitutes a debate, and a debate is the purview of the committee, of the board. It sometimes, when dialogue gets engaged in, it constitutes a potential violation of the open meeting law. So just those ground rules. And I assume that we will be respectful and civil. All right. I will go ahead and call Carol Breslin to the podium. Carol, please remember to flip the switch on the microphone. It's on the right-hand side. KT did it for you, I think. No? It's not on. It'll pop up. She just turned it on. Well, I guess I should have done that. I turned on all the other microphones. Good plan.
Okay. Hi, my name is Carol Breslin, and I am a resident of Dunn County. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm here to talk to you about items number 6 and 7 on tonight's agenda, refugee resettlement. I've read Chair McCullough's memo regarding this issue. I have some serious concerns here. We've been requesting that this issue be placed on an agenda, any agenda, for nearly a year to no avail until now. At no time was there a request to prohibit refugee resettlement in Dunn County, but to institute a referendum pausing any resettlement until some common sense, responsible questions were answered. Have any of those questions been answered? My guess is that they have not even been considered. It is clear that our county board struggles to work within its budgetary constraints already, as evidenced by our current debt level and the fact that you borrow money to meet the budget every year. What would interpreter costs be with an influx of refugees for schools, for police and sheriff's departments, etc.? It is not unreasonable to ask for a pause until these questions can be answered. To say that our county government would be overstepping its bounds by initiating such a pause is ridiculous. To use the referendum question that mentioned fully covering medical care costs for all Americans is also ridiculous. The resettlement decision in Eau Claire County was made not by the county or even the city elected officials, but by one single non-elected city administrator. This is absolutely unconstitutional and unacceptable. The county board members are our elected officials, and I believe that the memo Chair McCullough wrote is an attempt to fully abdicate the responsibility to represent the citizens of Dunn County to the federal government, which might not seem as appealing after January for obvious reasons. I strongly believe that government can be most effective at the local level where we talk to our neighbors and handle issues personally and expediently rather than a one-size-fits-all approach being overseen by people that have no vested interest in our community and its affairs. You have the direct responsibility to represent the citizens of Dunn County, and this is an issue that would be an appropriate referendum question if you do not feel that you, as our county board, have the authority to enact a pause. As for the corporate council's input on this issue, I think it would be appropriate for you to review the Supreme Court's overturning of the Chevron deference decision. I believe that there are applications that can and should be used here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Next up, Mike Cooper. Push the little button, Mike, on the right.
With the red light?
With the red light, that very one.
Mike Cooper, Menominee, Wisconsin, and I also would like to speak to items 6 and 7. It is hard to know where to start. First, to schedule this vote after all of you safely reelected to your seats leads one to question the reasoning of this vote now. Why not last month before the election? And actually, considering the mandate given to the president-elect, it seems rushed to do this vote to legitimize this immigration scheme before the county knows the extent to which Mr. Trump, with the cooperation of Congress, may change the focus or eliminate the program. The only sensible solution is to vote for a moratorium to allow time to see what will transpire. Secondly, I always thought the first and primary job of the elected official is to work for the best interests of the citizens who elected them. How is voting to allow immigrants into the county who the county is going to be responsible for without knowing the cost to the taxpayer a wise decision? The only wise decision you can make is to vote for a moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecil Cooper. It's still on.
Okay. My name is Cecilia Cooper and I live in Dunn County. And I'm addressing items 6 and 7 on the agenda as well. In reviewing the packet of supporting documents, I noticed what I consider to be a glaring omission in information provided. While the article from the American Immigration Council paints a very rosy picture of the outcomes of refugees resettlement, it does not address the experiences of Whitewater, Wisconsin, Springfield, Ohio, Wilmer, Minnesota, St. Maud, Minnesota, and others that reflect a very different outcome. Why is an assessment of these towns' experiences not reflected in the information packet? Surely, these cities could provide valuable information as to the impact of refugee resettlement. For example, how the relatively small number of refugees grew from the initial placement of the first refugees to the current population through chain migration. This is not a not in my backyard response. This is a reasonable response to determine the impact of refugee resettlement now and in the future. It is the request to be responsible to the residents that are already here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jim Euler.
Still on?
Yes,
Okay.
you're still on.
Jim Euler, Evans Lane, Menominee, here to talk about items 6 and 7 as well. Residents of Dunn County voted overwhelmingly recently for the presidential candidate who is strict on immigration, as they did in 2020 and in 2016. Dunn residents also overwhelmingly, even more than that race, rejected the recent school board referendum. Part of that is a sign of economic times, but part of it is other reasons. Does that mean that there's no support for immigration in Dunn County? No, I don't think so. I think we have some elements already. That's not an immigration program, but that is an international education program that works very well. And I would submit that we have a lot of economic benefit from our growing international program at UW Stout. And the students contribute a lot to local industry and work here sometimes after graduation, help out with internships. We have right now room in the classroom because of some flat or declining enrollment among local students. We also have some room in the dorms due to the same reason. So I would submit that if folks are big on bringing more diversity to Dunn County, that you look at the international program at UW Stout and support that one. I don't think we need needy families at this time when Stepping Stones and the school district are financially strapped. Thank you.
Thank you. William Updahl? And just to clarify, this is the document that you also emailed to us? Okay, thank you. You need to flip your microphone on, please. Little right button. There.
Good evening. My comments are in regards to items 6 and 7 on the agenda. And I will read the same exact comments that I made to the County Executive Committee many, many months ago. My name is William Utfall. I am a Dunn County resident. I live at E1396 State Road 64, Boyceville, Wisconsin. Dunn County is within the 100-mile radius of World Relief's Eau Claire Resettlement Office. Refugees can be placed anywhere inside the 100-mile radius. The past few months, there has been much discussion by the county board concerning the lack of affordable housing in Dunn County. Is Dunn County prepared for the strain on the housing market if 75 refugees are placed in our county? Who will bear the burden of the cost of providing housing? The taxpayer will. World Relief assists the refugees for only 90 days. One of the ways they assist them is by enrolling them in every government assistance program that exists. A refugee is considered to be self-sufficient if they are able to sign up for and receive the benefits of these programs. After 90 days, World Relief is no longer obligated to provide any assistance to the refugees, and all costs fall on the taxpayers. Housing, food, heat, education, transportation, medical, dental, translators, the list goes on. The county and its taxpayers will be forced to deal with the added strains and costs of various departments. How much will it cost the sheriff's department to bring in a translator when there is a traffic accident because a refugee cannot read our traffic signs? Is the sheriff's department and court system prepared for these situations? Do their budgets have the funding to cover the costs of translators? Are our school systems prepared and funded to deal with language issues? I sure hope that our county health department has done a very detailed analysis of the medical needs of refugees and how it affects our health and healthcare system in the county. Are they fully vaccinated for all diseases? Do any of the refugees have tuberculosis or other diseases? The health department was very concerned about everyone's health the last few years. I would certainly expect they will show the same amount of concern and that every effort will be made to ensure our medical well-being in relation to this. Our hospitals and clinics are already struggling. Will they be able to handle an increase in emergency room visits? Do they have translators? Who in the end bears the added cost? Surely the county health insurance program will be impacted.
Mr.
Along-
Updahl, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Those are the names that I have on my list. All right, Ms. Winter, would you read the emailed comment, please?
I would like to have this read during public comments. My name is Luke Wiltsey, Dunn County Supervisor, District 8, E5243732 2nd Avenue, Menominee, Wisconsin 54751. To the members of the Health and Human Services Board, I'm writing to you to express my desire to have on the agenda a consideration for a resolution to have a pause on the refugee resettlement sent to the full county board for discussion. Health and Human Services Board members and I have received Chairman McCullen's memo, and I appreciate his thoughts on the matter. In his memo, he asked two important questions. Is this an appropriate issue for county government? And do we have any statutory authority to do so, that which is requested? Under the Refugee Act of 1980, Section 2B, it states, "The director shall develop and implement, in consultation with representatives of voluntary agencies and state and local governments, policies and strategies for the placement and resettlement of refugees within the United States." I believe this statute clearly answers both of his questions with a yes, as we are the local government. All federal, state, local, or voluntary agencies involved with refugee resettlement must coordinate with the local government. The Dunn County Board of Supervisors has a duty to act in the best interest of the county populace and to be fiscally responsible to that population. I just sat through months of budget meetings where at one time we were up to $7 million short of making our budget. We had to cut and borrow to make our budget. Can the county afford the refugee resettlement? I don't know, but let's do like our surrounding counties and pause and do a study. It is my belief that all the duly elected 29 board members have a say in this, and not just a committee of 5 and a few unelected bureaucrats. Our surrounding counties of Barron, Chippewa, and St. Croix already have seen concern in this matter and passed resolutions to pause refugee resettlement. I will attach St. Croix's so that the committee members can see what one looks like. I'm asking for a roll call vote on this matter so that each member is on record if they are voting to move this on or table it. Thank you for your time on this matter and look forward to seeing the outcome.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, then I'm going to close public comment. Item number 6, we have received a formal request from Supervisor Luke Wilsey via Chairman McCullough to take up the refugee issue. And the rules of the board require us to do this. And so I've put it on the agenda. However, I've added this item as a discussion item and not an action item. And here's why. Importantly, we do not have any formal resolution on which to act. We have a petition submitted with 343 vetted valid signatures to, quote, call for the Dunn County Board to put a moratorium on the world relief resettlement of refugees in Dunn County, unquote. And Chair McCullough and I thought it was important to allow people an opportunity to speak on the issue, and we've done that. However, I have checked with Chair McCullough, with the county manager, with the county clerk, and there has been no resolution submitted. Therefore, we have nothing on which to act. Second point that I'd like to make for the committee is that I personally have some questions about whether this Health and Human Services Board has the authority to act on this or any related issue. And I think most significant in reviewing the opinion of Chair McCullough, consulting with Corporation Counsel and with Corporation Counsel in Eau Claire County, it is clear from the U.S. Code and statute that neither this committee nor the county board has any legal authority to supersede federal law or to block federal resettlement of refugees. Again, I referenced the document that Chair McCullough forwarded. I also, in consultation with Eau Claire County Corporation Counsel, learned that counties do have the authority to implement moratoriums. which are temporary prohibitions of certain kinds of activities within the county. However, by statute, and I have the statutory citations, that moratorium would be limited to zoning-related items and not therefore to on the issue of refugee resettlement. So I've asked for number 7. I've asked Assistant Corporation Counsel Barbara Fagan to review a memo which was shared in your packet, again, about these issues of authority or lack of authority of the county board to act on this matter of refugee resettlement. Barbara Fagan, would you be willing to walk us through your document and your findings about our authority or lack thereof? Microphone, please.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
On page 22 of the packet is the memorandum I'd written to Corporation Counsel Nick Lang, outlining what the United States government resettlement process is, so that everybody had similar terminology to use regarding the resettlement process, and specifically regarding the supremacy clause, and that ultimately it is the prerogative of the federal government and not the state or the counties in order to determine resettlement of refugees. And that is outlined through their extensive process, as well as I cite 2019 executive orders, HIAS Inc. v. Trump, who attempt in that administration attempted to have mechanisms in place to restrict some refugee actions. And throughout the rest of the document, I know that there was some other laws that were case law that was cited in public comment that has also been overturned. And ultimately, it is the Corporation Council's belief that this committee, as outlined also in Chair McCullough's memo, does not have the ability to restrict the federal government on where refugees would be placed.
Any questions for Corporation Counsel? Supervisor Hagan.
Hi, thank you. I had a question regarding the HIAS case. Currently, I think it is, sorry, let me bring up my notes. It is has a preliminary injunction on it. Is that correct?
Well, I believe that is correct.
Which puts it on pause.
Correct.
Is there any word on that, like continuing forward the injunction or potentially?
I don't have anything to elaborate on that with.
Sure, all right. But for right now, that's what the pause is on it.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Lamb? No? All right. Anything else? Thank you. I do want to correct one point in Corporation Counsel's memo that she indicated that the Eau Claire County Board had passed a resolution on an economic study, but the resolution failed in December 23rd by I think, what are my notes? 18-9.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Dr. Hall.
Hi, so I had a question, and it's really just whether I read the materials correctly, probably. So if I understand the refugee resettlement process, as was mentioned earlier during one of the public comments, there's an agency within the federal government that provides funding for the first 90 days. But then if I remember correctly, then Health and Human Services actually provides additional funds for the period after that to help support for things like language classes and housing and food assistance and all that. Does anyone know if I read that correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there are other resources that
Right.
are brought to bear for long-term education, transportation, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, good. Right. So thankfully, there are some funds available after 90 days, and I certainly appreciate the comments that people made. I appreciate that we don't have a lot of resources. And so at times it feels like where is the money going to come from? So I appreciate that. And we've got a lot of challenges in our county as it relates to healthcare access for everyone and housing access for everyone. And I think that's very true. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I hope that we can, as a county, work on those problems so that we can be a place where everyone can be welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Anything else? Supervisor Breslin.
Quick question. You mentioned both yourself and Chairman McCullough used or basically referred to Eau Claire County and what their corporate counsel stated. Did you reach out to St. Croix County, Chippewa, or Barron, who all passed resolutions? And for some reason, their corporate counsel must have looked at it substantially different insofar as they had the ability to do this at the local level. So was that looked at all?
I did not, Supervisor Breslin, and I'm not aware that Chair McCullough did or did not.
Okay, so what we got is two sides of a road or two sides of an issue, and one was looked at, but not the other. The next thing I got is at the start of this, there has not been a resolution that has been brought forward for this committee nor the board to look at.
That's correct.
Okay, so are you saying then if a resolution would be brought forward, it would be looked at by the board or reintroduced here at this committee?
That would be the decision of Chair McCullough. But if a resolution were submitted, clearly it would be considered.
Okay. Lastly, we did have and to be honest with you guys, I honestly think this should be something that the voters do, not the board. This should be something like on a spring ballot. And with that, we had a spring ballot last year regarding healthcare. And that was put on the ballot. What were the, and I can take this offline, Chairman Morehouse, what would be the requirements and maybe dealing with corporate counsel would be what are the hurdles that have to be taken on to accomplish that?
Yeah, I do not know how a referendum is enacted. I will reference you though to the point that Chair McCullough made that the Wisconsin State Legislature made some changes in county's ability to float local referenda, I think largely in response to the Medicare for All resolution that passed in Dunn County. I think it is more difficult now to do that. That is the state telling counties, its poor stepchildren, as it were, that we have limited authority to do things. I don't know about requirements for referenda. I don't know if that seems like putting Corporation Counsel on the spot.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? Supervisor Hagan?
Thank you. I would like to put my hat in the ring for that as well. If we could add it to the legislative agenda, it's probably too late at this point, but
It is.
yeah, I would, in an ideal world, like to see that re-looked at the state level. But yeah, it's much more difficult to have any referendum anymore. That healthcare one that we did at Dunn County was like the last thing that happened at that time.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's the last one that's gone
happened.
through.
Yeah, and that's kind of a shame because I think that is a excellent way of hearing the voice of the voters, and I feel is, to me, a overstep of the state to the county's decisions. And so I would like to see something like that worked out in the future. As another separate side point, we don't have anyone from World Relief here tonight to speak to how the process works or anything?
No,
Okay.
because the discussion tonight, as you noted, was about the authority of this committee and the county board to act and limited to that.
Okay, yeah. With that being said, I would like to motion to table this conversation.
Well, this is, I mean, we're not tabling anything. We don't have an action item, so we can't, there's no ability to move to table.
Okay, all
The
right.
discussion could continue at some point, I suspect, but at this point, there's no parliamentary rule for tabling a discussion.
Okay.
Supervisor Steen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. If I understood Supervisor Breslin correctly, I think the question is asked, how do we bring a resolution and how do we bring a referendum? Am I interpreting your question correctly? So if those are questions that can be answered by the county to him. So I would suggest that those answers be given to him to clarify the issue.
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
Uh,
I ain't done.
Corporation Counsel, did you understand that as a direct request?
I did.
Okay, all right, there you go.
Well, and I'm not done yet.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Not just for Supervisor Breslin, but I think for everybody. That would be educational for all parties that are involved, myself included. And so I think it'd be a sunlight move, so to speak. Thank you.
Dr. Hall?
Thank you. I did want to address one of the comments from earlier about medical screenings, and just would like to, just as a point of education, that refugees that are coming into this country do undergo some medical
Be really brief
evaluation.
about that, but I specifically
Okay.
requested that we not respond
Okay,
to public comments.
but they do. I used to do them, so.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, thank you, Dr. Hall. Anything else? All right, moving on. With the committee's permission, would you allow us to move the public health discussion forward so that Jeff has the ability ever to go home to his family? Anybody okay with moving the public health item up on the agenda? All right, public health, I'll turn it over to Kate. I'm sorry, Mr. Lamb.
Oh, just one minor silly thing, but let's just do item 5 quick.
Oh, right, I'm so sorry, I skipped it. Next meeting date. Again, we've moved it up to the 19th of December. Does that work for everybody? Otherwise, it would be Christmas again. I don't think you want to be here on Christmas. All right, the 19th, we'll see you. All right, now, public health. Thank you, Bill.
So just very quickly, you guys have in the packet our update as a department. There is some conversation in there for your awareness around being a breastfeeding friendly work site. And so we continue to have that conversation with HR to see if specifically our WIC program could pilot something to support pregnant people and keeping them retained in the workforce, especially as we consider the shortage of childcare in the community. So definitely to put that on your radar. The rest of it is pretty much day-to-day business, and I don't have anything too much else to share around the health department as a whole. Any questions on what you received in the packet?
Any questions for KT? Yeah, Supervisor Bashan.
I just think the infinite work policy sounds like a great idea. Is that something that's going to be kind of a case by case if they're working whole days, half days, some from home, some from office kind of thing?
So these are early days, and I want you to have awareness as our governing board, because it is something that we have just started conversation with and brought policies, sample policies to HR to start that conversation. We would need to make sure that our clients are taken care of and that our business needs are met, in addition to meeting the needs of our staff. But we don't have any of those details sussed out just yet.
I think it's a great idea to help meet the needs of the babies too.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for raising that.
Okay,
All right,
so let's pivot a little bit, and first we're going to talk about water lab data.
Thanks for moving me up on the agenda.
You're welcome, Jeff.
So I think when we first started the water lab, the board asked for some data, 6-month data. So we have some data. We started doing water samples here at the health department, bacteria water samples. On first one was on June 26th. So we have about 4 months worth of data. So I've put this little simplified graph of kind of where we're at the current moment. So we're still in the process of getting our nitrate lab up and running, so we don't have any data or fees to propose today for our nitrate side of things. But we've been currently charging $25 to run a bacteria sample. So I've broken it into two different areas. Just to remind, the private bacteria water sample, that's for a homeowner that wants to know if they have bacteria in their private well. And then the TN, the transient non-community bacteria water samples, are those samples that we collect through our DNR program for churches, restaurants, those type of places that serve the public on a private well. So we actually this week, this data is up through October 31st. This week we ran our 100th sample, so we're kind of excited for that. It was present for bacteria, so I guess that's the way we celebrate. So we've ran 22 private water samples during this time period, and we've calculated between staff time, the cost of the media, equipment, that sort of thing. We've got this whole Excel spreadsheet of how much. Yep.
Of course you do.
So I've simplified it here. We have a revenue about $4.68 at the moment. And this is something we'll have to update as prices of lab media and different things go up and staff time. But we hope to get more efficient with our time as we run more samples. So hopefully that will help balance some of those costs and revenue. So total revenue for our private bacteria water samples is $102.96 so far. So small sampling, but we got to start somewhere. And I would add that we haven't advertised our water lab at all. We're kind of waiting till the nitrate gets up and running before we do a full release of that. And I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit with some systems, public systems that have to take bacteria samples, sometimes monthly, quarterly, that are currently running their samples to Eau Claire, the Twin Cities. So hopefully it'll be a win-win for both us and those operators. For our transient non-community bacteria samples, we've ran 71 of those samples. So on here, it's not really a revenue because previously we'd have to take the sample to a different lab. But the cost savings, we saved about $332 in those fees that we would be charged, or we would be charged from another lab.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Any questions on this data or the water lab?
Supervisor Steen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, Jeff, do you have a baseline, or are you using this to establish a baseline on the county bacteria level and all that stuff?
Yeah, so we have on the sample form that if they want to be excluded from mapping. So we're giving the citizens that opportunity to say, no, I don't want my information to be collected in mapping. But it is our plan to use that data to track, especially with nitrate as well, to help land conservation and other organizations to kind of map some of that.
So if I understand things correctly, that currently you probably couldn't give a good estimate of our level countywide, and going forward, that's what you're intending to do, so you can have
Land conservation has the largest proportion of samples, and so they also ask for permission for private landowners. But yes, it's being mapped.
Yeah. Okay.
They've done this land. Conservation has done a second round of private well testing this past summer. The data will be out in a month or two.
And the reason I'm interested is I think protecting our water is crucial as we go forward, and knowing where your water is. You can't protect it if you don't know where it's at. So thank you very much.
Yep, and we have existing data on more than just bacteria from other studies, so that definitely helps. But we hope that this will help add to that data.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, Jeff. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We can just start on Appendix A and I can talk through. So I've got a lot to cover here and there's a lot of material there. So if you have questions that I go through, it makes sense to me, but let me know if you have questions
Okay,
on.
yeah, be sure to ask Jeff if you have questions. I
Uh,
had to do a little work with my calculator, just
That's right.
telling you.
Yep, so just a big overview of our program. Like I mentioned last year, our licensed facilities through Department of Ag, DNR, it's a voluntary program that we choose to do here because we have more local control. We have those relationship building opportunities to better protect public health. So over the past 2 years, we've been using our time tracking data. So we've taken, okay, how much time do we spend on inspections or helping in certain areas where we're spending our time, and we've used that to drive our fees. And so starting next year, we'll use a 3-year average of our time tracking, how much time we spend with that. So I think we're moving to a process that I think will be more sustainable in the long run. And I think we've made some good progress in the last 2 years. I would add that the decision last year to add the plan review and pre-inspection fee and get those to a level that we felt were more representative of our time has had a big impact on our ability to meet the 80 to 100% of our costs, because we have the goal of having this program be self-sustaining through fees and use as the least amount of levying other funds to support our program. So I think we're moving towards an area where we're finding that balance of meeting those needs.
Just interrupt for a second, the board will recall that we approved that choice moving forward. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. So on Appendix A here, you'll see on the left side is if we do no fee increases at all, and the deficit that we would see in each of those programs. So it takes into account our revenue, what we have to reimburse the state for running the program, then our costs, salary and fringe, and what that deficit is. The nice thing about, I think, where we're moving towards this year is we're able to say, okay, where have we spent the most time protecting public health? And try to say, okay, that's where the fees need to be increased, and that the fees aren't being increased more than 3% in any of these programs. So not all of the fees are proposed to be increased. For our retail food, they're on the right. It just shows mainly that we're going to be increasing fees, and it'll be later on, you'll see where it's at, but mainly our moderate and complex facilities, mainly because we spend a majority of our time in those places. We're also working towards meeting FDA standards of risk-based inspections. So they're saying, okay, if a facility is more of a complex, they're doing more items, there's more risk there, we want you in there more than just once a year to see how the facility is doing, because we only get that snippet in time of that slice of time of how they're doing. So we've moved, which I think we've mentioned before, that we've moved to doing 2 inspections at the retail food serving meals complex facilities. So that increases our time in those facilities. So a slight increase in those for the retail food. Also in the lodging, just a slight increase in those fees. We spend a fair amount of time the last year trying to find some short-term rentals that haven't been licensed. So there's some increased staff time there, and that's something we'll continue to do to make sure that those facilities are properly licensed. So a slight increase is proposed in the lodging area, and the same for the campgrounds. So you can kind of see the comparison there. Overall, the increase in fees would save us about $2,000 in deficit. We're still in the red, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
That way. Any questions on Appendix A or anything I've said so far?
At any point, did you consider moving to 100% of cost coverage, or does that just feel too radical at this point?
Yeah, I think it's a goal that we can get there. I think with the 3-year average, that will give us a better idea of how sustainable that approach would be. I think getting to 100% would increase some of the fees quite a bit, and I want to keep it more of a manageable pace because we can't fix it in 1 or 2 years. It's going to take some time.
All right, thank you.
To get there.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Hall.
So thank you for that. And it's something it's like, we're still operating in the red, but that's okay. We're still, getting closer, which is great. Help me to remember. So fees increased a year ago. And we did receive some public comment around that. And so just thinking about strategies, and this isn't my wheelhouse, but kind of the psychological experience of every year there's a fee increase. So again, just wondering, like, we have our goal of where we want to get to, and I don't know if it's better to do less than 3% every year, every single year, and people are like, it goes up again, it goes up again, it goes up again, or if it's better to bite the bullet and be like, it's going to go up 10% this year, and we're not going to increase it again for the next 5 years. So just thinking about what might feel better for users, and I don't know. Right now people are really concerned about costs, and everything costs more, and so I don't know psychologically, strategically, what we're talking about a difference of $2,000 here, right? And so I guess I don't want to earn a whole bunch of ill will from our customers for the sake of $2,000. Although I also appreciate, like, we're trying to get to that 100%. So I don't know what the best way forward is, but these are the kinds of questions I ask. So I don't know. I would imagine maybe these are things that you've thought about as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Just a side note. The Department of Agricultural Trade and Consumer Protection, their fees did not increase for 16 years, and so now they're attempting to catch up by doing a 3% increase over times 16. So their fees are going to increase almost 45% or more. So I think that's quite a shock to the system.
Supervisor Steen.
If I may, Dr. Hall, my experience on the village board, we had the same thing on our water and sewer rates, and we did not, I suppose you could say it was benign neglect, but we didn't raise them for years, and then all of a sudden we had to catch up. I would recommend a gradual increase every year. That's more palatable than a 10 or 15% increase somewhere down the road. Just sharing my experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, Supervisor Prashant.
Just some clarifying for me to learn, since this is my first year. You mentioned DACAP will be raising theirs quite a bit. So if we did not do this locally, they would do it. Or
So yeah, we're a home rule state, so DACAP, some of their some counties haven't taken on this program, so they have their own fees. Some
Okay.
counties have chosen to say whatever DAT caps fees are, we're going to adopt those. Here at Dunn County, we've chosen to set our own fees
Okay.
for those. The impact that will be for us later is we'll have to reimburse the state more based on it's a percentage.
So by doing it locally, we get that little bit extra control.
Yep.
And then, so do you compare our fees to what DACAP is charging? Are we better than them? I mean,
We're we've
Yes, we are.
we're higher than what DATCAP charges. I know we are in the facilities every year. For some of the DATCAP, I can't speak to how often they're actually doing those inspections. They're limited down there.
Probably not very often.
but it's probably quicker to get the license through the county than going through them.
Right.
So benefit on that side for the local side.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So if we go to Appendix B, here below, it kind of shows the table on the right is our current fees, and then the table on the left in the red would be the increase in fees. I would add that we have taken the feedback. Dr. Hall mentioned feedback from operators saying, hey, these fees for certain licenses are higher than what we would see. So if you remember from last year, our transient license was 190. We broke that into 3 categories: transient prepackaged, transient non-TCS, and transient TCS, to help represent a little more equitable fee structure there. Also in our retail food not serving meals, the complex, we broke it into square footage. So some of those smaller facilities, mom and pop type of places, aren't charged the same as some of the bigger names. So I think that made sense when we got that feedback. So we've been trying to take the feedback we get from operators and try to implement those changes the best we can. So with this appendix here, you'll see the changes that we're proposing and what the difference in cost for the facilities would be. So obviously not a huge increase in fees. And then if KT, if you want to scroll down farther, there's these are more fees that we've chosen not to propose fee changes based off our time tracking data.
Okay.
Any questions on?
Any questions on Appendix B? Okay.
Okay, so now we're gonna, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Hagan, I wasn't looking.
No, that's okay. Going through everything, you said that there's gonna be increase of time with retail food and a potential increase of time with unlicensed short-term rentals. How busy are you guys? Is it like you're trying to play catch up, or do you feel comfortable with the load you have with everything?
Like as far as doing routine inspections?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or do you need another person in your office?
We will always take.
Of course we do. Of course we do.
I think we're at a manageable place, but obviously this is just a small portion of what we do.
Correct.
I think from our time tracking data, obviously our food inspections program takes the most of our time. And I think it was low 30% of our time was spent there. So we've got 70% of our time spent in other programs and other things that we have to follow up with, like human health hazards and different things like that. I would say that with our water lab, we're definitely more busy. We've had quite an increase in those tourist rooming house licenses. So it's a good thing, because I think a lot of these short-term rentals are on private wells. So we do offer them, hey, we've got a water lab. We don't force them to use us. They have the option, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the food inspections, I'll say that the one ride along I had with that went swimmingly. It was fantastic. So just kudos in that department as well.
Perfect. Thanks. That was with me. So if you can see Amy, you'll be even better. So we have good staff. So it's thanks for that feedback.
Okay.
Perfect. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. And so this fee structure was for our licensed facilities for food, lodging, campgrounds, that sort of thing. So now we're going to talk through our transient non-community. So this is a contract we have with the DNR to collect bacteria nitrate samples and do annual site visits at these facilities. So I guess bigger picture background to help understand the graphs here is we have been doing the TN program for Dunn and Pepin County for longer than I know, longer than I've been here. Starting in January 2025, Pepin County is going to take over the TM program. So we'll have a little bit less revenue. We'll go from about 81 systems to 63, 64, because we just added one. So you'll see that reflected in that bottom table there. So with our transient non-community fees, if we go out to do an annual site visit, we collect a water sample, it comes back, it's present for bacteria. The DNR requires that we go back and collect 3 additional samples. If any of those come back positive, we got to get 3 additional samples for each of those positives. So you can see that it can add up quick. Amy just had a facility that we've collected 22 samples because we get the
22.
they get a present. We recommend that they chlorinate. We recommend some actions. Surprise, surprise, people don't always take our suggestions, and they learn the hard way. So currently, all those follow-up samples, we haven't been charging those facilities for. We've kind of eaten that cost. We do get some reimbursement from the DNR for those extra visits, but it's not been enough to
Doesn't cover our costs.
sustain our program.
Yeah.
And now that we have the water lab going, then this could impact our water lab revenue as well. So now that they're kind of intertwined, whereas before they were kind of separated, we didn't have that revenue in that water lab. So in 2023, we had a total revenue. We charged $50 for the sampling. And that basically covers, right now, that just covers the blank cost of running the samples. So what we want to move forward to, and I've got that blue table, if you go up a little bit, KT, I did a comparison of what other counties, St. Croix, Polk, Eau Claire, Chippewa, Sawyer, are doing. The majority of them charge for all of the samples. A few of them only charge after they give them a break that first time, and then they start charging them those fees. So in 2023, we had a total revenue of $4,050. We did get some money from the DNR for that contract for running that program at $17,722. And then our staff time in the program was $23,997. So we're a little over $2,000 in deficit for 2023. So 2025, if you want to scroll down a little bit, KT, what I did is proposed that we increase that fee to $55. Part of that reason is as we're looking at the nitrate sampling, we're looking closer to that $30 per sample. So we're just trying to figure out, okay, if we're going to have $25 for the bacteria, 30 for the nitrate, is looking possible, then the $55 would make most sense to increase that cost, which is St. Croix is a similar cost. So what I did is I took, okay, if we did $55 per facility, now that we have less facilities, our revenue would be a little bit down. Our money from the DNR would be down a little bit, but also our staff time, drive time to Pepin County alone was a lot for those facilities when sometimes, especially when we're running to Colfax to run it's a 2-hour commute just in drive time, not alone the time it takes to sample and do the inspection. So with the increase of $55, then we'd be at a deficit of $3,102. But I'm proposing that if we go back up to the blue box, that we start charging the first time that we take a sample and it comes back positive. I feel we should give them the benefit of the doubt. We don't want them to say, "Hey, you stuck your finger in there just so you can make more money." So we want to give them the benefit of the doubt on those first 3 follow-ups, but then thereafter, we just charge $25 for each additional sample that we have to collect, which would just basically cover most of our
Makes
costs.
sense. At least that's to me.
Okay. Any questions?
Any questions for Jeff? Yes, Supervisor Hagan.
Hi, thank you. It's me again. I had a question with the follow-up samples. Have you had an experience where someone is taking proper steps to mitigate the issue and it just wasn't happening? The samples kept coming back as positive, even though they were trying to take the corrective actions?
Yep, we've had experiences where they've chlorinated, and then we do what's called a level 2 assessment. If that happens, if after the first 3 follow-up, we do a level 2 to say, hey, what are some other avenues we can explore of what's going on. We usually find the issue, and when they take that action, most of the time after that first follow-up sample, then we're good. But we do have a couple that come back and they're like, well, we don't know what's going on, so we have to dig a little deeper. I think that would be the majority of them. I would say if they do corrective action, they usually fix the problem.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
So with this, we want some guidance on bringing this back as an action item. So thinking through what Jeff has put in front of you, it sounds like there was a lot of agreement. There wasn't too much concern voiced. You all saw that we had addressed the concerns that some of our smaller operators, our mom and pops, had raised around prices, but then we also really tried to thread the needle and address where we were spending more time, and that did result in an increase in our more complex and our larger facilities, as you saw. And then also thinking about our well water, really trying to recoup cost on where we're spending the most time, those systems that are not either compliant or not adequately addressing the concerns as they're initially brought up. And so with that in mind, is there any additional feedback before we bring this back to you next month as an action item?
Anybody have, Supervisor Prashant, go ahead.
I just think having that be afterwards for the motivation of like, please get it taken care of, or that will cost you more money, can help that side of it.
Yeah, that's our hope, is that, hey, this first time we're giving you a break, but let's
After that.
let's get some action going.
Yeah, this seems entirely reasonable to me. I mean, there's this little part of me that wants you to make up the deficits, but I do understand, and I think you're handling it very carefully, given the concerns that Dr. Hall raised and the concerns that our constituents raised. So yeah, bring it back to us in December or January.
If you would rather see it in January, we can do that.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, otherwise. we'll bring it in
Whenever I think you're ready.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, KT? Budget, anything, updates, anything?
You guys did see the finance in your packet. We are getting much closer. What you'll see is that our expenditures are higher than expected, and what that is resulting in, or from rather, is that we are using both public health ARPA dollars and our COVID-19 dollars that are one-time funds to make some fairly large purchases. We've increased the accessibility of our immunization room so that parents can hold kiddos in a more appropriate way versus having one of those old style lay down exam rooms. And so that you'll see that other purchases again to spend out those dollars that we had expected to sunset at the end of the year. I was notified by email last Friday that there has been an extension in public health ARPA. They have been telling us for 3 years that we would not have an extension, and then they gave us an extension. So we have very quickly reassessed how we would spend those dollars. Not that we were spending them inappropriately, but we were spending money on things versus time. And I would really like to think about how we can continue to support birth to 3, continue to support some of the work that we do out in the community that was not budgeted for with those dollars instead of, I love our immunization chairs. That's fantastic, but stuff.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does, it makes perfect sense.
Any question on the financials as they were presented?
Supervisor Steen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. No, KT, going back to the water situation, what's our goal there? Is our goal to break even, or is it our goal to make money? Or is it our goal to offer it as a service which is non-revenue producing or self-sustaining? What's our goal there?
So as we talked about when we set up the water lab using public health ARPA dollars, is that we wanted to provide a service. We didn't want to over compete with our neighbors in small businesses. But we also need to make money to run the program. So the goal is to make a little bit of money so that if we have to replace something without the benefit of having public health ARPA dollars to make that investment, that we have a little, I'm not allowed to use the word escrow, but we have a little bit extra so that we can make that purchase.
Thank you for your answer, and I'll stray just a bit here, but the whole county boards, in my estimation, is county government and township governments and all governments are service-based. They're not a business. Good business practices, you should have that, but they're not a business. And I think sometimes people lose sight of that fact that and the county, I think, provides valuable services for our residents. So just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Supervisor Breslin.
Thank you very much. One quick question. I'll be honest with you, I've had this for a few months and might as well pop it out there. Historically, the water testing has been done in Colfax at a testing lab. Has anyone checked to see if this has adversely affected that business to possibly a degree that we could lose it? Because that would sort of be short-sighted, making a little bit of money and then all of a sudden you'll lose thousands in tax revenue because you no longer are utilizing that service.
So I think the benefit to us, there is obviously as an elected official, you need to think about your constituents. We want to make sure that we have a lab that we can trust and that we don't have quality issues with.
Okay, so you're saying in the past you've had both trust and quality issues?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that answers that question.
Well, I'm glad you asked it, though. That was a good one. All right. Anything else? Jeff, you are sprung. Bedtime. Thank you. Greg, thank you for being so accommodating. And now we will revert back to item number 8, Veterans Services.
This is recorded so my wife can see that why I'm late. I was kidding. I was kidding. All right. Good evening, supervisors. I'm going to go over the Veteran Service Officer Report. One item, I will be briefing the budget this evening by exception that is not in the packet, but I will discuss each of the the overall budget and each of the cost centers and identify if there's any concerns, which there's not, but I'll go into more detail. Regarding the memo formatted document, I'll identify what we've done locally over this past month. Typically in that October leading into November timeframe, we end up with a lot more outreach requests, and so we're trying to accommodate and answer a lot of that, just to ensure that those out in the community are aware of what we offer, and there's a lot of patriotism, so we want to balance that. And so this last month outreach event a few Mondays ago with women's group over at the senior center, and what the goal of that was to identify to them what our office brings to the community, and what they wanted to know what we offer, benefits that we provide, and then they wanted to just discuss ways that they can support. And so as a result of that, they had reached back out, and they want to donate a tree for the to the county or the Veterans Memorial as a whole, as part of their giving project, and then also they direct donation for veterans relief. So that was an absolute nice gesture on their part, and I think it's will be a nice partnership in the future. And again, it's the longer I continue to do this, there's no outreach event that I participate in that I don't know the majority of the people that are there, which tells me that our outreach efforts are effective, because when you see individuals from the community, more and more, you know that you're connecting the right people, and that's how the message gets sent. So that was a good connection. I think there's some value in that. And then of course, as we lead into November 11th was Veterans Day, and there's a lot of school districts in the area just do an incredible job highlighting and thanking veterans, and that heightens a lot of questions in our office just regarding some of the historical documents potentially for family members that had passed, and so we try the best that we can to answer some of those questions as well. And we participate at the senior center, as well as the Neighbors of Dunn County with a recognition for veterans. And honestly, if you haven't attended the Neighbors of Dunn County as supervisors, I would highly recommend. They do a great job organizing that, and I've seen things just through the past, and I always enjoy when I'm just plugged in, where I don't have to help organize. So I greatly appreciate that. But they did do a very, very good job, and just the right amount of time for the folks that they have there, and those of all individuals, because Veterans Day is about those that are still living. Memorial Day is about those that have passed, and so I thought they did a remarkable job with that. And then here, week ago, outreach event at UW Stout, and they always do it in the fall. Again, it's for to outreach to their students, to ensure that they're aware of the benefits, and truly the Veterans Administration that gets involved with the UW Stout Veterans Club, as well as their veterans education representative. It's really about trying to market and encourage those younger veterans to enroll in the VA for healthcare, because they have that available to them, and oftentimes they'll overlook that. And as time goes on, budgets change, situations change, and there's always a chance that those enrollment factors or requirements could get restricted. And so that's a concern. And we've had plenty of individuals that don't think about their health care until they need it, rather than all the preventive care. So that's really the overall goal for that. Moving on to the state benefits, the transportation grant, annual grant has been released. There's a little bit of delay on the application process, because the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs is working to update a lot of their stuff, and so just a little bit of a delay, and with a couple systems they updated, and going to an online application, which is going to be a lot more seamless with that application. I met yesterday with the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary James Bond, and it's a second.
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah. He goes with the joke. Yeah, he's a lot of credit. So I'm the president of our state association. Our state this last year voted and changed the name to County Tribal Veteran Service Officer Association. We're the first in the country to do that. And that just again signifies the importance of the tribes as not part of, but a separate entity. And as the state recognizes again for grants and those purposes. So as we transitioned and as I took over as president, and then this meeting come up, one of my priorities and initiative is to ensure on that partnership. As association, it's all about training. You know, you have to do your job, and that's really we can influence, but we don't decide as an association. And so, and just to continue that forward, but as part of my meeting with the secretary yesterday, I starting it just named it the Past President's Council, EL, not IL, because it's to advise and educate and support utilizing my predecessors, 6 to 8 of them, and they were very much on board with that. And so that is going to be an advisement role. And as I told them, I'm looking for feedback. They don't get to decide, of course, because they're not the president. I do, but I would use their wisdom as well as bringing in that. So that was very helpful leading into the meeting with the president, because utilizing their many years of experience and being in that role, just to ensure that we're hitting those main touch points to continue to solidify and even improve in the areas that we need to with those relationships. The Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs has a great deal of influence over money and funding for what needs to be done, and then also kind of almost on an equal counterpart with the Wisconsin Counties Association. And so, and part of the past month, the Wisconsin Counties Association reached out because there's ARPA money that's coming to deadlines that, and some of them have been set based upon the specific organization. As example, the Department of Veterans Affairs provided supplemental CVSO grant money, which our office plussed up a part-time position and used it up right away, where others have kind of spread it out over the 24 months, and it's coming to an end. And so there's some concern that some of it's not going to be spent. And so people get concerned at those decision-making levels, like, hey, is this money going to get spent? Because we don't want to return it. And so that's something, as with the association president, gathering that information and just reassuring, like, hey, read those reports that were all submitted in June, and that might give you a better idea, because we've got some more spending. So just ensuring that we're partnering and getting up-to-date, accurate information, because they're also considering about that extension. And I think KT kind of mentioned a little bit with public health as well. So so those would be some things that be following on our end. All good. You know, we needed it to add staff, not buy more pens.
Greg, did you offer to help them with that extra money then?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So that just a couple ideas and that Dunn and with the role of taking on with the president, I also see that as I try to have local influence and try to continue to encourage veterans to seek services. Customer service is the main point, extending that influence and reassuring the secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs that is one of our focuses, as well as training, because you hire right, you train right, you get good output. Less turnover saves all the money in the end. So on the federal level, if there's some information in the media about the VA blowing up their budget a little bit, and then finding out like maybe we didn't blow the budget up. And so there's some discussion back and forth on that. And so the local effect on on some of that federal stuff. The local effect is there a little bit of delays in receiving authorizations to go local. It doesn't, I believe from what I see is it's just making it more in line with a normal timeframe to that anybody would go through to have a specialty appointment. So I don't see that as a major concern yet, but I do think that there has to be a little bit of infusion of some money potentially if that's what they believe is going to solve that with for us, having the community care is an important piece. So hopefully that'll get resolved as time goes on. And I put in your packet, and I'm not going to go into great detail about it because you can read through the priority groups on the VA healthcare. And what I would want you to know, you're thinking of veterans receiving care, there's tiers, and these priority groups dictate payment. And so just as an example, that if you look priority group 1, there is no cost for care, which there shouldn't be. The military service had put a person in a position financially based upon the damage to their body that they should not have to then bear that burden of cost to try to get healthy or be healthier than what they are. But there's costs for the other ones, and it's still, the costs are minimal. And it's, so it's not, nobody's breaking the bank. It's $50 to get for specialty care, 15 for regular office visit. You can go to urgent care, walk in at an approved clinic, and it's going to cost you nothing for your first 3 visits. And then after that, it's 30. But usually in a year, if you're going to urgent care 3 times, it's a bad year. It's a bad year. So just a little bit idea on the federal side. And I included in here, probably the first time that I put nothing significant to report as far as an impact statement. So make that answer short. There's 10 days taken up this month for some other important activities. And so to dive into and pull out a story and talking to coworkers, I just deferred to, okay, we're going to do nothing significant to report, and good things are happening. And we will add some of those impacts for some good humanized output of it.
I'm with Dr. Hall. We trust you.
And if you look at a comparison here at the end of the reporting month of October, you can see that it's already eclipsed last year's total, and you're looking just straight financial money that's come in. So I'll end with that and just lead into quickly briefing by exception with budget. The Veterans Service Office budget, overall budget's $314,555. We have 3 cost centers. One is for operations. We have very minimal control over that, the majority of that budget. We have a small, so within the operations cost, salary, fringe, our IT items, a lot of those shared costs, but you move down into our copy paper and pencils. We will be within budget by the end of the year. So there's no concern over that. Then we move into our veterans relief budget. There will be a carry forward of donated funds going into the next year. The county puts in some levy dollars, and so we spend those items and try to spend any of the donated dollars. There will be some that'll get moved forward into next year, and then the last part is $13,750 for County Veterans Service Officer grant, and we use a third to a half of that for salary costs. Then the rest we use for outreach event and stuff, and so there's going to be no concerns. That will be zeroed out on the grant side. Any questions about the budget I just briefed without it being in front of you?
Any questions on the VSO budget or anything else for Greg?
Okay.
Supervisor Steen.
Yeah, Greg, were you read in or advised on that veteran supper we had over in Colfax?
It was not, no.
I'll take care of that. And
Okay.
it was a great deal. And they look at quilts of honor, they
Yeah.
they gave out, if you get the Colfax Messenger, there's a picture in there, and I think there's like 8 or 10 guys that got them, so it was a pretty cool thing. So
I read some of the quilt, the quilts. That's a, yes, yeah, it's a great thing to
So
do.
I'll have to talk to the gal at Ramrods tell her to contact.
Yeah.
They served 137.
Wow.
Yeah, Colfax has Colfax, boys, for those small towns, they just have, have very high veteran population.
Interesting.
And it makes sense,
Yeah.
when you just know the mind, when you think in military mind, but that's another evening. So that's all I have. There's no.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the Department of Human Services, Ms. Winter.
Sure. My report was in the packet. And before I start that, I do have several shout outs in my report, but I want to do a shout out. When Greg mentioned the 10 days of missing in action in the department this month, that was because of ERP and all of the demos that they've been doing and watching and participating in. And when we started this project, Becky and I kind of divide things up. She took the ERP section. And so she has spent all of these days in demos and then I've been able to do other things and I'm so grateful for that. So I'm lifting Becky up and I'm lifting this committee up for allowing me to have a deputy director because that's amazing. Other shout outs, I met with the special ed directors in Dunn County, or that work with Dunn County and have some of the residents in their schools. And wow, what a busy and challenging position that they have. And speaking with them, we really, they first of all started off giving me all the jobs they have, and I can't believe how many hats they wear. And so when you think about our department having a lot of hats, so do special education directors, let me tell you. And it was really kind of interesting, a lot of the same things that we are challenged with, some of, all the complexity of kids and families and needs are really parallel. And we have a lot to collaborate with, and hopefully having some meetings together is just going to help those relationships better. So I really appreciate meeting with them, and that will continue. Yeah.
I'm sure that you have some thoughts on that subject.
Microphone.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What came out of it, we really found that even just staffing wise and the things that we struggle with and that go well, we really share a lot in common. So there's a lot more in common than there is without, and I think that will help us just collaborate and continue to move forward. So we are very, very grateful for that time. So thank you.
You're
Right,
welcome.
thank you.
I know I already talked with Family and Children's and they're going to get a hold of you and set up a meeting and, we'll start working with managers to get to meet with the special ed director. So that's some good stuff. I include in the packet Bernie's information. There was a question asked last time about aging and the demographics and ethnic breakdown. So that's in your packet to take a look at there. He shared that with me, and another shout out to Tracy, who again, the advocacy, once you're on boards and panels and committees, you can just really be a voice for Dunn County and that advocacy. So big shout out to her. And then I wanted to go into, there's a shout out for children's waivers. They also did a really great job with their audit this year, and Birth to Three as well. I haven't received the paperwork on that, but they've also had a really good audit. So I wanted to also bring up the financial piece that's in my packet. We have 2 youth that in October went to, one went to an RCC, which is a residential care facility. And that is called Rawhide. And you can see in the packet that is $673, 674 rounding a day, which is 245,000 a year if staying in there. And then the other one went to Lincoln Hills, which is $1,268 a year. The department.
Day.
Or day, I'm
Day.
sorry. I'm sorry.
A
Yeah,
day.
I did that with you guys too, the wrong number. So that is a day. And what the Department of Corrections is charged to do is to ask the governor each year to have the counties reimburse for the actual cost of care for the services there. And things have gone up so much that they asked the governor to charge $2,300 a day for 2025, starting July 1, 2025. And so our association is working to try to have some conversations with the governor to put some proposals together to look at some other funding, because we just can't double our cost there. If you can imagine what that would look like. And Lincoln Hills is never a short term, a month or two, it could be a year, it could be 2, 3, depending on. So that will be a budget bender.
Yeah, we'll have some significant budget
Yeah.
considerations next year, given
Yeah.
that. Supervisor Steen?
Yes, Ms. Winter, I don't think we have a choice on what we do with those. We have to do that. I think you might just touch on that for the education of the board and the people
Sure.
watching,
Sure.
because we don't have a choice, and, we have to do it and eat the cost.
Yep.
Yeah.
So every placement we have, there's, reasons for doing that. When children are placed in care underneath a child protection order, it's because of safety for that family and children and needing placement. Usually that looks like a relative care. It looks like foster care, treatment foster care, maybe on the high end, a group home, something like that. When our youth that are delinquent and commit what would be considered an adult crime in the community have offenses, then usually the cost is a lot higher. And it's really hard to find a foster home or someone like that that would want to take somebody that's charged with battery, assault, all kinds of stuff, that's higher on that criminal level. And quite frankly, it's not safe. They've already harmed people in the community or such. And so to put them at a lower level is not safe. And so you go into court and the judge makes a final ruling on it, but he or she makes that ruling based on what's needed for that child. And so it's not only the child, but it's also the community that we look at. What's the safety of the community? And so the judge does order that. And once it's ordered, that's what it is. And and then you look at that on a regular basis. How's the youth doing? Is there improvements? What can we do to help with this? And then on that regular basis, and eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to return that youth back into the community safely. But it is usually many different factors that go into that. It's not a simple answer, and so it does take a while. Dr. Hall.
Dr. Hall?
So it boggles my mind that things like this, such are very high price tag items, are the responsibility of the county.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we're bigger than many, right? And yet this is a huge influence on our budget, and you can't plan for it.
Mm-mm.
You don't have a
Can't budget for
choice.
it.
You can't budget for it. And so it just seems to me like these really expensive and necessary items, that it would make sense to distribute them over the largest, risk pool as possible. So I don't understand why in our state, in these particular instances, this is not a state-funded issue. It just boggles my mind. And so I don't know if that's something that the County Board Association, I'm looking at you, Supervisor Steen.
Well, I know, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's in our legislative agenda.
And that was my other question.
I suspect it has been.
Mental health, this is for youth justice.
Justice.
So I don't know if this,
I guess maybe it isn't.
it's,
Right.
I asked the managers here in this unit, because obviously I've only been here 2.5 years, and they don't remember the last time, maybe Chris does, the last time there was a Lincoln Hills placement. Yeah,
Interesting.
so it probably is not on the agenda, and I have to, not laugh, but laugh in a bad way, because when we were talking about these significant increases, I think it was Kenosha County Director said, all right, smaller counties, it's just going to take one of these kids to make you go way over budget. And I went, phew. And then a month
then
later, here we are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the way it goes. You just don't know what's going to come and what that looks
Yeah.
like. And so,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it just feels like this kind of sword of Damocles that's kind of hanging over and you never know when it might happen. So I guess I'm asking that we think about adding this to kind of our legislative priorities, that the county board associations, start talking about. It doesn't make sense to me that this is a county expense, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, $1 million a year, for example,
for one
right,
youth.
for one kid. Sorry.
Madam
Go ahead,
Chair, if I
yes.
might, Ms. Corporal, I think you were the boss when we had the overage. We had that mental health place about 350 grand that one year. Is that right? Yeah, and then so it has happened, and you're just stuck with it. And then I got to say that this Human Services has done a great job of trying to budget and anticipate things, but this is something that you can't anticipate. But they've worked very hard to have our budget come in pretty good, I think.
Certainly, Chris.
Lincoln Hills is the equivalent.
Right.
If you're thinking about what you're talking about is incarceration bias.
All right. And so if there's no more questions about that, then we'll move forward. There's a couple things I wanted to share yet tonight. Becky's going to pull up our performance and annual yes, satisfaction survey. I'm sorry, it's getting late. Just right. It's past bedtime. Yeah, so if we can look at that and click a couple more for me. So this is taken annually, and so we kind of compare it from year to year. If you want to click to the next slide. It goes through some of the data in here, and I'll go through that really quick. This year we had 75, and in 2022 there was 77. I'm not sure what happened with 23's numbers there, but 72% participation. There you go. Let's click to the next one. This is just how it's scored, and I don't know that you need to go through that. So why don't you click forward, the next one. So in here, there's scoring. The range can go from 36 to 216. Our mean score was 150 this year in 2024 and 166 in 2023. The higher the number, the better. And so they've also normalized the three different mental health mean is 136 in our department, social service mean is 142, and then the total United States mean is 148. Look to the next one if you would. So here's some of the ratings. So dissatisfied is a score of 36 to 108. And so we had 2 staff this year that were dissatisfied compared to 5 staff last year. So that's a little bit up. And ambivalent, which is 109 to 144, which is, my response of ambivalent is like, it's okay. It's not good, bad. It's just kind of okay, right?
That's a terrible descriptor for
I know,
that scale.
I hate
It's
that.
just terrible.
It is, because it's good to be okay, right? But that's the name of it. So 30 staff were ambivalent here this year, and in 2024, there was 24. So we have a little bit higher number in that medium category. And then when you go to satisfied, 43 are in that satisfied, and last year was 48. So a little bit lower there. If you want to click to the next. These are the areas that they look at, and then the description. So you get pay, promotion. Is there opportunities to be promoted? How's your immediate supervisor relationship going? What about the fringe benefits? And then other rewards. Are you being appreciated, recognized? Are there rewards for good work? Operating procedures, are those things in place? How about your coworkers? Do you like the people you work with? Do you enjoy with them? Do you have a best friend at work? Those kinds of things. Then you have the nature of the work, the job tasks themselves. Do you know what your job, what you're supposed to do and what's expected of you? Communication within the organization. If you want to click to the next one. So it kind of gives you the background. So when we looked at salary for 2024, we were at 14.06, which is ambivalent. And in 23, we were at 1641, and 22, we were at 1537. So we've gone down a little bit in the salary, the satisfaction and salary, but we're not dissatisfied, but just a little bit lower. Promotion, we went down a little bit in that area as well to 12.86, so just a little bit lower. And then supervision also is just a little bit lower at 20.56, which is still in that satisfied area, but it's just a teeny bit lower than it was. When we look at benefits, we're back to ambivalent again. At 14.95, which is higher than it was in 2022, but a little bit lower than in 23, still kind of all in that range. When we're looking at other rewards like appreciation, recognition, we're at 16.72, so just a little bit lower there too, couple points. Operating conditions in 24, we are at 13.9, which was a couple points down again. I really wish they had answers as like, why? To know this, what is that? What's behind that? It's really hard to know what that means. Coworkers, they're still very satisfied with their coworkers at 19.2, although, it's just a little bit lower again. Nature of the work, they're satisfied, kind of right in there again. And communication, that one went a little bit lower as well. So something to pay attention to in that area. This is how we score it. You can skip that. So, and then this looks at what that test looks like. So that's all, that's with the PowerPoint. Questions, concerns, something you wanted me to review again? Did I go too fast?
Dr. Hall.
So thank you. I think it's really important to be doing these surveys regularly and getting that pulse. So I really appreciate that. I think maybe next year it'd be nice to maybe have a bar graph, a little easier to compare year to year and kind of see how they look. And so the only question I have is, these seem to my mind like relatively small changes, like according to the organization who administers the test or the survey for you, are these statistically significant changes? Okay, so it looks like we're kind of
In there again.
We're kind of in there again. We're kind of holding our own. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry about that. The survey researcher speaks. No, those are not significant, statistically significant changes.
I know.
Supervisor Steen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. There's one category I didn't see was dissatisfaction with upper management. Did you take that out of there this year? Just a question.
Mr. Lamb.
Apropos of nothing, but every time I hear the phrase, we're holding our own, I'm reminded that was the last transmission from the Edmund Fitzgerald to the Andersons. So.
Dear.
We're not going to say that again.
Supervisor Bashan.
So you don't write these questions though, right?
No.
Can you provide feedback to the survey writers that plain language is better? Not, what is this one? There are benefits we do not have, which we should have. So that might not be clear to everybody what they're actually asking. So just the feedback to provide potentially.
Probably reflected in the answers as well.
Right. I don't know.
What's
how many
your
years
overall
you've been doing, this is the same survey, and I think because you have history with it, and looking at those numbers, and you always want to answer the same question, but I think it's yeah. Yeah.
What's your take? I mean, the changes from year to year are insignificant.
Right. And I actually debated, do we even do this? Because, it was only a couple months ago that the county did a survey, implemented the first survey. And then I'm like, is this confusing? Is it not? But we've done it every year. So, I mean, I'm not sure whether we want to continue or not, to give us some base or not, but, so.
All right, thank you for sharing. Yes, Supervisor Breslin.
Year over year was great. Since we're having an outside company doing the survey or writing the questions,
Well, I'm sorry, I should have explained that. I think that, the researcher and the information was purchased probably a long time ago.
is there any way of getting
was always
numbers
free.
outside the county, like Wisconsin or
Mm.
upper Midwest?
Sure.
Something that would give us a
It must be
better
because
understanding of-
there's a national mean in there. Yeah, I mean, so there must be a database.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Chris is saying going back.
Yeah, so
It's a normative, yeah.
and then they also, that was
Subset.
categories of
Yeah, mental health.
dissatisfied, well, dissatisfied, ambivalent, satisfied, those, how they're chunked together, those were also normed in the survey development.
I would guess that.
I think she's going back.
A little
No, I
bit
think
farther
she's
yet.
going back.
Yeah, you need to go
Right
back
to
further.
the beginning,
Like
second or
scoring.
third slide.
There,
That
there you go.
Mhm.
So the mean score actually for, no, that, because the mean score nationally was like 150. So you might be spot on that one. It's like right around there. And then those mental health mean, social service mean, and then the total United States are all the average scores across the country. So we are higher than the average scores across the country, slightly.
Right.
But
Not significant.
yeah.
This the same.
And this was a tool developed specifically for service related organizations. So health, like healthcare, human services, those, that
That
world.
one. Okay.
But I think Supervisor Breslin, if you were asking if an outside company does this, I don't know. I mean, it's been around in Dunn County for a while.
It was available. To, use them to norm other things, but norm the rest of the world, I guess. But honestly, I think the researcher is retired, so it's been a long time.
They are ambivalent, perhaps.
And, we just, I shouldn't say we, Cassie is responsible for this. And so she just created a Google survey or a team survey type thing, and people click the buttons and we got all the answers of the clicking the buttons. So, that's kind of how it, yeah.
Thank you, Cass. Thank you. Anything else?
Oh, I do have more.
Yeah.
Dr. Hall asked for, so are you done sharing? Can you stop sharing? No, because the next thing we're gonna do is those. So if you're done sharing, I'm gonna share. I'm sorry, this is so late tonight, but I had asked Betty to do this for me, and so I wanted to make sure that we at least got this here. No,
No, it was not in the packet.
Betty was in ERP for all those days. And so I said, it's okay not to get in the packet, but let's get it out here. And I'm sorry, she did do beautiful charts. How do I make this bigger? How about that? Okay. All right. So I can put this in your packet for next time if you want to study it, and then we don't have, unless you want to bring it up. But okay, so there's different categories of placement. And so
These are foster care placements.
yes. Yes, so this one is foster care, and then there's foster care, and then when you're in a treatment foster home, there's also an administrative rate that goes on top of the foster care, and then there's something called subsidized guardianship, where a child is placed with a relative, and that relative is given a subsidized guardianship to care for that child, most likely till they age out of the system, but it's helping that relative to care. So you can see the numbers here in the chart where we are currently at in 2024. And I got the numbers below as well, I can show you. But
These are years?
so we've got years here.
Uh-huh.
So like 2023 compared to 2024. So I know in 2023, we had several families of like 5 kids. So those families like that are going to make numbers grow. Several of those placements discontinued in 2024. So then you're going to see a little bit of going down, but it is higher than it was in the COVID years and previously. So we do have that. And then the foster care admin, you're going to see that number is up there as well. Not as bad as last year. And then subsidized guardianship is right there as well. If you look at the actual data, Betty put that in there for you. So in 2024, so far, we've had 51 kids in those types of placements. The foster care cost, you can see, is $358,000. And then when they're in treatment, here's your admin rate. And then the subsidized guardianship. Now, as of 2023, January 1st, 2023, the state made a change where we are fully reimbursed this cost, this 106, which is great news. And the other great news is as of January 1st, this 2025, it will change where they change the definition of family members and like kin to broaden that. And so I'll give you an example. If we have a parent that has a significant other that's been in the house for a long time, help raise kids, the parent is not able to care for the kid, they break up, we're actually able to put those children with the significant other. And the state now has authorized that, and they have some additional funding. They're going to help us fund that as well. So we're able to place with people that are like family, like kin. So we'll see some help on that end as well next year. Questions on the foster care? Yeah.
Dr. Hall.
I just want to say thank you for this. This is really, I mean, it seemed like there was a little bit more. So it's really nice to have data and to be able to actually see what's happening to give us an accurate picture of what's happening in our county. So I really appreciate this. I would love to continue to see it maybe as a feature in annual reports or something. I think it's really helpful information.
Sure. There are 3 more though. So hold on. I gotta download. This is the kinship. So this is what I was talking about with relative care. Oops. So here we are in 2024. And then if you go down, whoops, this is really tiny. I'm sorry. You'll never see that. How do I?
Yeah, we can't see it.
Okay. So in 2024, we have 59 kids in kinship care. 2023, it was 79. So that number did go down just a little bit, but likely that may increase next year with that like kin piece. Is that going to go down on me? Okay. And then, Mom, group homes. Oh, maybe I did it too much. Okay, so look at that. This is what you're seeing, Dr. Hall. Major difference there. So this is residential care centers. This is kids that are in secure detention. So we've had kids that commit crimes and then they end up like in Eau Claire juvenile detention. It might be a day, it might be a couple weeks, those kinds of things. So that drives the cost. I think that's $500 a day. So that those kinds of things drive it up. So this is anything that's larger than a foster home. So like that group home, it might be multiple kids in that setting, residential, that type of situation. And then we have the dollars and cents right here.
Dr. Hall.
So I also want to just give a kudos to how these graphs were created. So I really appreciate that they're showing us the total dollar amount, which factors in, the number of days which they're in placement, as well as the discrete number of children impacted. So this is beautiful information. Thank you.
You've satisfied the data lover.
So there is one more that's kids that are in independent living. So I will send that out. I won't take time tonight to do that, but kids that are like ready to age out of the system, they might be 16, 17 years old, and we're preparing them for being out on their own. They're not going to be able to go back home with the situation they're in. And so we help, pay for apartment and different supports for them so that they learn to be on their own and independent. And so we pay for that as well. I wanted to say in the group home residential and secure, that does not have our 2 placements in there because we haven't received a bill for them yet. So that's coming. The other thing I had to say to Betty, who made these charts, I said, "You're going to make me look good tonight. Thank you." So she said, "I'll be anxious to see how it goes." I'm like, "Yep, you're going to make me look good." So I'll let her know that she did it.
She did it.
Not with the dollars we're spending, but with the charts, right? The information. That's all I have there. And then I think that Becky's going to pull up the financial report for us, which we're sitting well in yet still. Of course, we are having a couple months yet of bills coming in. Yeah. Yep. So 508,707 is where we're at for the projected. Yep. Oops. Yeah. So.
Any questions on the financial summary?
I have a general question.
Yes, Supervisor Hagan.
So with the 2 placements that we have and with the projection looking to be in the good by the end of this year. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering, is there a way to carry it forward to be for those placements at all? A request in that regard? No?
No, according to the rules, we, anything that is not a designated thing, like Greg was saying, we have some funds that like have been donations and things or different grants. We carried them forward, but anything that's outside of that, it goes back into we've not asked for we haven't received it yet. So that would be, right.
It goes back to the general fund. And it would be nice to have a human service savings account, but we do not. But that'll be next year.
Okay.
Yeah, this year I think we'll be okay. I mean, even if we have those invoices coming in for a couple months, I think we should sit okay. Hopefully, cross fingers.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I started to interrupt you for. It's not this year. It will be next year where the pain is evident.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We have one last item. We have the October vouchers. I need a motion to note review. Supervisor Steen, Mr. Lamb, seconds. Any discussion, questions, comments? We see these every month. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the vouchers are noted. And again, thank you all. It's late. Appreciate your attention. And thank you to our staff for doing a really great job as usual. Yes, Supervisor Steen? Highlight December's meeting. Okay, I will do that. It's December 19th. And that's a week. I know you are. You're very helpful. It's a week earlier, but we're not going to meet on Christmas Day. So there. Huh? But next month. Yeah, Thanksgiving is next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank
everybody.
you.
Safe hunting.
Safe hunting, whoever is hunting. All right, thank you all. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Becky, for sharing all that. Yeah, that would be helpful.